Hello, everyone, and hello, Anya in yellow. I think this is going to be a great discussion. The very first point that I'd like to bring up is this idea that the maximum of 5 sets format has been around since Wimbledon of 1877. That's a long time and is a tradition in the tennis world. And I don't think that getting rid of it would be a good idea because then you'd be getting rid of a really long lasting tradition in the tennis world. Hello everyone, I'm so happy to be here. Onion Black. My response to your point is that I agree. I am not disagreeing with that. I think that that is a great point. Tradition is a big part of tennis, and I don't think that getting rid of it would make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So even though I agree with this idea of tradition and maintaining that tradition in the tennis world, I think that there are other needs that need to be met as well and that aren't right now. Well, I am intrigued to hear what those needs are, but I also just want to make one more point about tradition. If you think about it, we always compare players of the past to players of the present. But if we change the 5 set format, it's going to be harder to compare players of the past to if we change it. For instance, if let's say these up-and-coming players only have to win Grand Slams in a max of 3 set format, how are we going to compare them to Federer or Nadal, who've had to win 5 sets continuously in these Grand Slam matches? No, I agree with that. Well, thank you. All right, now I want to bring up a point. So I think that a very strong argument that I have is this idea of this 5 set format being too physically demanding for players. For example, a few years ago, Rafael Nadal won a really tough 5 set match, and then because of it, an injury flared up and he had to retire from his next match. He could have won the whole thing. Who knows? But because that 5 set format is so physically demanding on these players, he had to withdraw and he had no chance of winning the US Open. Interesting. So you don't think that it's Nadal's fault that he got injured? Rafael Nadal has been on tour for many years. Because he's been on tour for so long, he understands what he needs to do to keep his body in shape. And he probably does so much physical therapy, so much extra injury prevention than a lot of players. If he has to get injured from this really long format, maybe it shouldn't be there. That's interesting. I think that the goal of tennis associations should be to make sure that players stay healthy, and I think that this 5 sets format is going against that a little bit. It could also be the amount of tournaments that there are in a year. I feel like a lot of players have addressed that issue. Yeah, I guess that is one way to look at it. But I do see what you're saying with this 5 set format being physically demanding, especially for players as they get older, and there are a lot more older players on tour now than there used to be. The point that I want to bring up is that 5 set formats really help exemplify the player's skills in these matches. It comes down to who's the better player, because in these 5 set matches, every point really does matter, and whoever has the best fitness, the best mental toughness, they're going to win the match. And I think that that's such a big part of tennis, is that mental toughness. And I think that that should be rewarded for whoever wins these long matches. Well, Onion Black, I am so glad you just brought up that point. Excuse me? It's actually my argument for my side. I think that mental toughness is developed. Because of that, people who are just starting to get onto tour, they don't have that mental toughness that, for instance, Federer or Djokovic have. How do you expect them to beat these players and upset those top players when they don't have the same mental toughness? Mentally tough for that long of time, for those 5 sets, which could be 3 to 4 hours. That is very hard, and that's a very hard skill to develop. So instead, if we bring that maximum number of sets to 3 sets, maybe that they can stay focused for that long, which would be maybe 2 to 3 hours, and then maybe there could be more upsets, and I think everyone loves upsets. They're always very exciting, and it makes the game more exciting. Doesn't that also make upsets more exciting when they do happen then? I don't know. I guess it comes down to whether you want more predictable draws or less predictable draws. Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. The next point that I want to bring up is pretty basic, but it's super important. When it's a max of 5 sets format, there's just more tennis. Who doesn't want more tennis? I want to watch hours of tennis. It sounds so fun. Why would we want to have the players play less tennis? That's less tennis for me to watch. Well. Once again, you have set up my next argument. Really, a little story to tell you. Once upon a time, Novak Djokovic was watching a 5-set match. At the beginning, he was super excited, but then once it became 3, 4, 5 sets, Novak Djokovic himself started to realize how long these matches really are. He noted that our attention span these days isn't that long. To pay attention for those 4, 5 hours, that is very hard to do. I mean, everyone has to get up, use the bathroom, stretch, but the match is going to keep going and they won't be able to catch every single point. Instead, we just make it a max of 3 sets format, and that way a lot more people will stay in their seats for longer periods of time because they won't have to sit there for 4 or 5 hours. Maybe it'll be 2 to 3. See, I don't know if that's a strong argument because if the tennis is good, I think it should go on for as long as possible. If these two players are getting into a 5th set, that means they're very close in level and it's a highly competitive match. So I think everyone would want to continuously see more of that, and attention span shouldn't be that big of a deal. I do agree. If the tennis is good, maybe people will, want to watch every single point, even if it is that 4 to 5 hour time length. How about this idea of scheduling hurdles? Interesting. What about it? In Grand Slams like the French Open and Wimbledon, where for some weird reason they don't have lights at night, they can only put on matches for a certain part of the day. So these 5-set matches become a really big hurdle for a lot of these tournament directors. They don't know when these matches are going to end. It could be an easy 2-hour match, and it could be 5, 7, or even over multiple days like the Isner-Mahut match. On top of having to play before it gets dark, there's tons of rain during those months also in France and in England. Instead, we reduced it to a max of 3 sets. There would be way less scheduling hurdles for these tournament directors. I see what you're saying, but at the end of the day, I care more about the players and them playing their tennis than how the tournament directors feel, because at the end of the day, the tournament directors are making money off of these players, and I really think we should just focus on enjoying tennis and not worrying about the tournament directors' feelings. Jeez, that's a little harsh. Right, well, it seems that we are running out of time and I have to say my final argument. So everyone watching and Anya and Yellow, my final argument is that at the end of the day, we have to care about tradition. And because of that, I know you had really good arguments, but I think tradition trumps all of that. I think that tennis is a game of tradition and we should keep it. And I know that this has become a more heated topic recently, but at the end of the day, it's going to take a lot for people to actually want to change the format. So I think that we should just end it, claiming I won this debate, and that's that. Onion Black, I am sorry to do a counterpoint as part of my final argument for the audience and for you. So actually, the max of 3 sets format has already been implemented in the Olympics and the Davis Cup, which are pretty big events. Though it is a long-lasting tradition in Grand Slams, if it is a successful format in the Olympics and the Davis Cup, maybe more players will start to ask for it to be implemented in Grand Slams as well. I guess we'll have to see. In addition to that counterpoint, I just want to say I love 5 sets. I think, like you're saying, tradition is big. I do agree with that. And I've loved watching these 5-set matches. Some of the greatest matches I've ever watched have been 5 sets. But at the end of the day, I do care about players' health, and I think that this 5-set format might be a little disastrous for players' health. So the health of these tournament judges, they're probably so stressed having to deal with all these scheduling hurdles that 5 sets creates. Lastly, I do like those unpredictable draws. I'd rather see more upsets than continuously seeing the same people win over and over again. Do you think I won the debate? Or do you think I won the debate?